Hello, and welcome to Healthy Eating for Your Kidneys. Hello, my name is Miriam Matulich, and I'm a dietitian here at Hoag Hospital in Newport Beach. And I'm very happy today to be invited to talk to you about healthy eating for your kidneys. I do have about 35 to 40 minutes to speak with you, and then we'll have questions. And please bear with me because this is my first time live streaming. So I hope to be able to keep within that time. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I would like to go over, first of all, our objectives. We want to go over the important roles of our kidneys. I think the kidneys are really, very, very important organs in our body. And that's why I have more objectives than I normally list today when we talk about healthy eating for the kidneys. I also want to go over the 5 main risk factors that harm our kidneys. There are several other ones, but I will talk about the main ones here. How do we keep our kidneys healthy? What can we do in our daily lives to make this happen? We'll also go over healthy food choices. I think this is really important that we eat the way we should to make this happen and to also help our other organs such as our heart, and we want to keep our brain healthy and our weight good. So I think it's important that we eat healthy for these reasons. There are many diet plans out there in the community. I know social media has a lot of them there. You might have found diets from your friends or magazines or books. Today we'll be talking about the 2 optimal diet plans that are recommended for you. Nutritional supplementation is very, very important because that question always comes up when I do a talk. and I'd like to go over questions about that too, because it's something that people are concerned about. Last but not least, we'll be going over regular exercise. I think that's very, very important, not only for your kidneys, but for your heart and your brain and your whole physical being. The National Kidney Foundation is a leading United States organization dedicated to the awareness, prevention, and treatment of kidney disease. These are the most recent statistics. 26 million Americans have kidney disease. About 73 million Americans are at risk due to family history of kidney failure or diabetes or hypertension. African Americans have about 3 times the risk. Hispanics have 1.5 times the risk. Kidney disease is the 9th leading cause of death in the United States. So you see it's up there in the top 10. So it's very important that we learn about this so we can prevent this. Why are our kidneys so vital? Well, like I said, there's many functions, but I'm going over the main functions and the most important ones. First of all, the kidneys are responsible for filtering the waste products and toxins from our blood. You may know somebody that is undergoing hemodialysis 2 or 3 times a week because their kidneys are not functioning well. So the artificial kidneys are actually doing the job for them. The kidneys also regulate our body's fluid levels. This is important too, to keep our temperature levels good. And for all the biochemical reactions that go on in our body, we need fluids. The kidneys also produce an active form of vitamin D to maintain our healthy bones. We know that calcium is important, magnesium, and several other nutrients for our bones, but it's nice that the kidneys do their part in helping out. The kidneys also release a hormone that regulates our blood pressure. This hormone is called renin, and renin actually controls the production of angiotensin and aldosterone. The kidneys also release another hormone that directs production of red blood cells called erythropoietin, or EPO. This is very important too because we know our blood cells, lots of our blood cells die each day and we build new red blood cells every day. So it's very important that we have this hormone. The kidneys also keep our blood minerals in balance, such as sodium, phosphorus, and potassium. Now, sodium and potassium are also electrolytes that affect the muscles in our body, and our heart is a muscle, so you know that's really important that we keep these minerals in balance. The kidneys also remove drugs from our bodies, just like our livers do. What can damage our kidneys? Well, several things can. Number 1, diabetes. Diabetes, having high blood sugar, go throughout our whole bodies, through our vessels, can damage many of our organs. We know that it can affect our eyes, our heart. We know about the kidneys. It can also affect your nerves and cause neuropathy. Heart disease is another one that can damage our kidneys. If we have atherosclerosis, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes, we have hardening of the arteries, then that also can happen in our kidneys, not only in our heart and throughout our whole body. High blood pressure or hypertension can damage blood vessels and kidneys because, again, that's the blood going through our vessels in a high pressure all the time can actually wear down the kidneys. Family history of kidney failure, and diabetes, heart disease, and high blood pressure is also a big factor, something we cannot control. Smoking can cause hardening of the kidneys. And this is why we always say, if you are smoking, try to cut down and quit if possible. Obesity is another factor that can damage our kidneys. Of course, obesity causes other problems like heart disease, diabetes, but it also can damage our kidneys. Our age, again, another thing we cannot control, age 60 or older can increase the risk of kidney damage. What about the fat levels in our blood? Well, another word for fat in our blood are called lipids. Now you see in the middle of the screen the word hyperlipidemia. This is when we have high levels of fats in our blood, and this can cause atherosclerosis or hardening of the arteries. You can see the LDLs there with the large yellow circles, the blue circles with the HDLs, and the small blue circles for the triglycerides. Now when the LDLs and the triglycerides are high, that can cause hardening of the arteries and can make this a risk for heart disease, which can cause strokes and, of course, myocardial infarctions or a heart attack. Well, it can also affect your kidneys in the same way. So the two major kinds of cholesterol that we want to talk about are the HDL, the good guys, and LDL, the bad guys. HDL stands for high-density lipoprotein. You can see there in this picture that cholesterol is coming from our liver. Our liver makes cholesterol, which goes into our bloodstream. And we also get cholesterol from our foods, which are actually, you can see that they're animal products, and that's where we get our cholesterol also. So those two sources, our liver and our diet. Now, the HDL are good cholesterol because they actually help get rid of the bad cholesterol in our system. Where the LDL, the bad guys, they actually help build more plaque in our arteries. So a good way to remember this is H is heavenly, HDL, and L is low down, lousy. They're the bad guys. Ways to control these risk factors. Well, how do we do this? Well, obviously, I'm here to talk about the diet, and that is actually the key to managing kidney disease and your overall health. We really want to keep in contact with our physicians to make sure that our labs are done and our cholesterol levels are good, our blood pressures are under control, whether we need to take medication for either the cholesterol or the blood pressure. That's important. Alcohol consumption. I did mention earlier that the kidneys get rid of drugs in our body. Well, alcohol is considered a drug. So we want to limit the alcohol to 1 to 2 drinks a day. And in defining what that means is 1 ounce of hard alcohol, which would be like whiskey or gin or that type of thing, 3 to 4 ounces of wine, and 12 ounces of beer. So each one of those are considered 1 drink, and we want to limit it to 1 to 2 drinks a day. Smoking, we mentioned before, can harm the kidneys, obviously. And the obesity, it actually raises the chance of getting kidney disease twice as much being obese. So we cannot control family history, as I mentioned before. We can't control our age, but we can control the others, which we just talked about. What can we do to keep the kidneys healthy? Well, we're doing the best we can by following a balanced program, controlling our weight. And how do we do that? We want to keep exercising, eat the right calories for our bodies, make sure that we keep our cholesterol levels within normal range, drink only in moderation, as we mentioned, because that's extra calories too. We have to think about that, and also it goes through the kidneys. And also you want to keep hydrated. Now, hydrated is really, really, really very important when it comes to kidneys, because the kidneys one of their roles also is to help produce the urine that we excrete. And so we need to make sure we're getting enough fluids in our body. Exercising regularly, this again, not only helps the kidneys, but helps our heart, helps our brain, helps our body, helps our weight. Exercising is just good for everyone. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on too. If you smoke, quit. Get an annual physical every year, and when you see your doctor, make sure that you have your lipid panel done and you're fasting. And if any of your labs are high, say your cholesterol or your blood pressure is high or your blood sugar is high, make sure that you attend or see the doctor at least twice a year or maybe 3 times a year to keep this under control, and take medication as directed. Know your family's medical history also. If you have brothers or sisters that have kidney disease or heart disease or diabetes or high blood pressure, you should know that. Or if your parents are alive, you really should find out about that, because that can help you understand what's happening with you. Now I want to go over the dietary part of our program here, making healthy food choices. Now I chose this beautiful picture of fruits and vegetables because it shows you the wonderful colors that we see here. Now fruits and vegetables, whether they're frozen, canned, or fresh, are very good for you. They all have the nutrition there. Of course, if they're fresh, you get more fiber, which is important. We'll talk about that later. But notice the colors, as I mentioned. Now these colors are great also for you because they provide the anthocyanins and the phytochemicals, phytonutrients that we need for anti-inflammatory and to build our immunities. Incorporating whole grains, you'll see the whole grain bread here, the cereal, the crackers, the pasta. These are very, very good. And whole grains also provide your fiber, which we have 2 types of fiber, your soluble and your insoluble. And these are very important too, especially the soluble fiber, in reducing your cholesterol and glucose levels. When it comes to dairy products, if you're using whole milk, try to cut down and go to the 2%. Maybe use the 2% milk. You can see here there's yogurt, cheese, popsicles, cottage cheese. These are all 2%. When you have whole milk, that's 3.5%, so that's a lot more fat and cholesterol. So if you can, if you like the 2%, then go down to the 1% and eventually go down to the non-fat, which will be the best for you. But again, they're all nutritionally the same. You just don't get all the fat and the cholesterol if you go to the lower fat versions. When it comes to proteins like your meat, fish, chicken, you want to use lean as much as possible. Now, up in the upper left corner, you'll see the ground beef, and it's 90% fat-free or 10% fat. You can also find 93% fat-free and 7% fat, but I just couldn't find that picture for this program. The chicken underneath, you can see the white meat chicken, the chicken breast is lower in cholesterol and much better for you than the dark meat in the legs and the wings, or the drumsticks and the wings. That has the darker meat, more cholesterol. The picture on the top right, the pork, the lean pork, is very good. And you can see that's done nicely, and nothing is fried, everything's baked, roasted. And of course your fish in the bottom right, that's very good choice of lean protein for you. What about reducing red meats? People ask me all the time, should I cut down on my red meat? What about that? Well, many people tend to use high protein diets because they're afraid of weight gain, and they're afraid that carbohydrates will help them gain weight, so they use high protein diets. Well, this can be very dangerous for your kidneys too, because another thing the kidneys do is they actually get rid of the breakdown products of protein, which is your ammonia levels. And if you eat a lot of protein, then you're putting a lot of work on your kidneys. So you want to cut down on the amount of protein, but also on the red meat, that can harm your kidneys, and because it's high in saturated fat, can also harm your heart. So you really want to use the lean protein as much as possible. Sodium, that's another big topic. Salt is 40% sodium and 60% chloride. The chloride is not bad, but the sodium is what we have to worry about. We want to aim for about 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. This is equal to 1 teaspoon of salt. So remember, most of the foods you eat have sodium anyways in it, so especially your animal products, your milk, chicken, fish, meat, they have sodium, and you can't get the sodium out of that. But you can make a difference and not eat a lot of foods that are processed with sodium and salt. For example, deli meats, cheese spreads, instant rice and potato mixes. These all have a lot of sodium. Potato chips, crackers, etc. So read your labels and make sure that you try to keep as low as possible to keep a lot of work off of your kidneys from eating too much sodium. But giving up salt doesn't mean that you have to give up flavor. You can actually season your salt with lots of herbs and spices. This gives beautiful color and flavor and even texture sometimes to your food. You can see here so many different colors, and you see this would add a lot of excitement to your meals and make it a lot more enjoyable, and not adding any extra sodium. Say no to these foods. Okay, now, what about the foods on your left? Okay, there's a lot of deli meats, salami, bologna, hot dogs. Of course, there's chips, and there's French fries and things like that. And on the right, you see the junk food junkie there. He's holding all the chips and cookies and candies and a lot of sugar products too, and a lot of salty products. So we really want to watch out for the junk food. Speaking about sugar, now we want to talk about sugar a little bit, because as we talked earlier about this, is that diabetes and obesity can also cause a rise in our kidney disease or risk for kidney disease. So we want to really watch out for the sugars. Just because sugar tastes good, it doesn't mean it has to be your friend. So you really want to watch out for the sugars. And we want to look at our labels when we read our nutrition labels. The word carbohydrate is actually just a fancy word for sugar. So we have two types of carbohydrates, the simple sugar and the complex. The simple sugar has very little or no fiber in it, and some examples of these are shown here on the slide. Sugar, honey, candy, fruit juices, white bread, white pita, white bagels, white crackers, muffins, dry cereal such as corn cereal or rice cereal, white rice, white potatoes without skin. A lot of these are simple, and they will not give you any fiber or any help in that area, where the complex carbohydrates do have fiber in it. And you can see here some of these, especially oatmeal, we have seen that even in our cereals. You can see even in our Cheerios, there's oatmeal in that, there's oats in that, and that has been found to help reduce the risk of heart disease. So that'll also help our kidneys too. Also corn, barley and brown rice, beans, peas, lentils, these are all very good sources of fiber. Vegetables, pastas, especially your whole grain, al dente. Yams and sweet potatoes are not only good for your nutrients, but they're very high in fiber, and they help lower your cholesterol and blood sugars too, because they're soluble. As far as fruit goes, fresh, whole, and raw fruit is the best, especially those fruits that contain pectin. And some of these are listed there: apples, citrus fruits, strawberries, and others to a lesser degree. As far as fruit goes, limit it to about 2 to 4 servings per day, because they do have sugar in them. Now, we want to talk about sugar-sweetened beverages. We also have to remember that beverages are important too. Not only what we eat, but what we drink can make a difference. Sodas are very high in calories and have no nutritional value except just the energy that you get from their calories. So just for example, a 12-ounce can of Coke or 7-Up has 10 teaspoons of sugar, 160 calories, and no nutritional value. Colas are even worse because they have phosphorus additives, which actually are used for coloring in the soda, and this can harm the kidneys. So for those that have kidney problems, they may have to watch their phosphorus intake anyway, so this is something where we always watch out for that. How much fluid do I need? Well, that's a good question. Since our bodies are 55 to 60% of our body weight is water, it's very important that we consume enough fluids to keep our cells and body systems running smoothly. To maintain blood volume, even when you donate blood or give blood, when you're having your labs done, you're always instructed to drink a lot of fluids, drink a lot of water. Your body has to make up for that blood that you've donated or you've given for labs. Fluid also provides a medium for biochemical cellular reactions. Practically everything that goes on in our body needs hydrogen or oxygen, and of course the molecules for water is H2O, 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. So we do need water for all the biochemical reactions. Fluids also remove waste products through the urine, through our kidneys. So it's important that we keep our kidneys working well by drinking enough fluids. What are the best fluids to use? Well, obviously, water comes as number one. It's always the safest. It's the most refreshing, quenching fluid that there is for us drink. Decaffeinated fluids are good also. Now I say decaffeinated because caffeinated fluids, anything with caffeine, well, caffeine's a stimulant, so our bodies will not hold the fluids as fast. You'll get rid of it faster than having fluids that are not caffeinated. Fruits and vegetables have a lot of water in them too, and not only your melons and your fruits and your oranges and apples and things like that, but all of the fruits and vegetables have some fluid in it. So think of that too. Grapes, your grapefruit, all berries have a lot of fluid in them too. So that's another good source of fluid. But how much do we need? How much does each person need? That's always a question that's asked of me too when I do my talks. Again, it depends on how much you weigh. So this is a very simple, there's other equations out there, but I picked the simplest one to put on this slide here. What you do is you take your weight in pounds and you multiply it times 0.5 ounces per pound. And that gives you how many ounces you need of fluid. But you have to divide it by 8 because there's 8 ounces per cup, so you can find out how many cups of fluid that you need. So we have an example here. For an adult, that's 150 pounds, multiplies that 150 by 0.5 ounces per pound, and that's 75 ounces. Then you divide the 75 ounces by the 8, and you get 9.5 cups per day. So we don't mean 9.5 cups of water per day. It's including all of your fluids that are not caffeinated. So water, decaf tea, decaf water, decaf coffee, fruits and vegetables, all of these can be counted in our water allowance. I'd like to go over a couple of the optimal diet plans that are out there, and I think maybe most of you have heard of these. The first one being the Mediterranean diet. I really like this one. This has actually been shown as one of the healthiest for most Americans. It allows very little meats and sweet. You can see on the top there of the pyramid. Then as you go down, you can add more moderate portions per week of poultry, eggs, cheese, and yogurt. Then as far as fish and seafood, at least twice a week. And of course our plant-based foods, anything that comes out of the ground is plant-based. So that's your vegetables, fruits, whole grains, olive oil, beans, nuts, legumes, seeds, herbs, and spices. These are all very good. And you want the majority of your meal to be plant-based. We talked a little bit about moderation and alcohol. It does say wine here, and it does show red wine. And again, that's because red wine has resveratrol in it, which is supposed to be healthy also for your brain and anti-inflammatory. Water, of course, is very important that you include your water every day at each meal for better digestion also. As far as exercise, we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes also, but do that every day and try to eat your meals with your family and loved ones. If you are living alone and you eat by yourself, try to make eating a great experience by using nice dinnerware, flatware, maybe putting flowers, having music in the background, a candle, anything you need to do to make eating more enjoyable for you if you eat alone. Here are the points, the major points for the Mediterranean diet. Again, eating primarily plant-based foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and nuts. Replacing butter with healthy fats such as olive oil and canola oil. Using herbs and spices instead of salt to flavor foods. Limiting red meat to no more than a few times a month. So I tell my patients, well, maybe just once a week. That's a good way to do that. Maybe one time red meat a week, and then maybe a couple times chicken or poultry or fish, and then the other times plant-based. And you, like I said, you don't need to have animal products for protein at every meal. Eating fish and poultry twice a week, as we mentioned. Enjoying meals with family and friends. Drinking red wine in moderation, and getting plenty of exercise. The next program I want to talk about is the D.A.S.H diet. And the D.A.S.H is almost very similar to the Mediterranean. It does encourage a lot of plant-based foods there. You see the fruits and vegetables, the whole grain breads and cereals, the lean proteins, the low-fat dairy products, and very little fats and sweets, and also the legumes and nuts and seeds. These are very popular also in the D.A.S.H diet. Now, D.A.S.H is actually an acronym for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. And this is actually an eating plan that was based on research studies by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. And these studies have actually showed that the D.A.S.H program lowers high blood pressure, improves level of cholesterol, and also it reduces your risk for heart disease. So if it does this for heart disease, you know it's going to do this to prevent kidney disease also. The D.A.S.H dietary principles are, like I said, very similar to Mediterranean diet: fruits and vegetables, fat-free and low-fat dairy products, whole grains, fish, poultry, beans, seeds, nuts, and vegetable oils. Limiting your sodium, sweets, sugary beverages, and red meats. And promoting a healthy weight, exercising, not smoking, and trying to keep your blood pressure under control. Here we have a picture of two very deliciously looking plant-based meals, and these basically are comprised of whole grains, nuts, fruits, and vegetables. And you see that, like the beans, the kidney beans, those are very good in protein. Quinoa is very good in protein also. You can get protein from all your fruits and vegetables, but again, you can get this without having, you can get your protein without having to put an animal product at every meal. Healthy eating tips, again, this is from the D.A.S.H program, using a variety of herbs and spices, not frying your foods. You can basically, if you can broil or bake your chicken, meat, or fish, avoid high sugar foods and those with added sugars, eating non or low-fat dairy and lean meat protein choices, and incorporating more fruits and vegetables, whole grains, breads, and cereals. And also check your nutrition labels for fat, sodium, and sugars. That can be kind of challenging. I know nutrition label reading is a challenge for some people, although the USDA has recently made it easier by making the words a little bit bolder, the protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and calories. So it's easier to see what you're doing and make choices and figuring out how much you should eat as far as portion sizes and that type of thing. So reading labels is very, very important. And make sure that your snack times are healthy too, and also very worthwhile. People ask me too, what do I think about having snacks in between meals? You know, it depends. If you have an early breakfast, you may want a mid-morning snack. The snack should incorporate some kind of lean protein and maybe a carbohydrate, a high fiber, complex carbohydrate. Same thing with your mid-afternoon snack. And if you have an early dinner, maybe a early, before you go to bed, nighttime, a light snack. Now I want to say a few words about nutritional supplementation. People ask me all the time, should I take a vitamin mineral supplement, or is that bad for me? Or if I take one pill, should I take two? Is that better? You know, all these questions. And so I just wanted to emphasize here that every body is different. And I mean that. I mean, you need to ask your doctor, your registered dietitian, or pharmacist to help you decide. They can offer advice to you that is unique and to you and offer help. You want to inquire about supplements recommended for your specific diagnosis, situation, age, etc. And I say that because even for people that have kidney disease, there's actually supplements that are made just for them that have the right minerals and nutrients that are there for them, and don't include the ones that the kidneys are not able to get rid of, you know, to process. So it's important that we do ask specific questions to our pharmacist too. Choose a multiple vitamin mineral supplement that's actually good for your age and gender. You know, don't use something that, like, a package of vitamins and minerals that has all these different pills in there, because you're going to be getting too much of one and not enough of another. I would get a one a day that has about 100% of every nutrient. Look at the label. And if you want generic, that's fine too. You don't have to get the most expensive brand. If you have a question on what brand you're using, you can also go to that website that I have listed there, consumerlab.com. It's an independent testing website with quality ratings and product comparison by brand. So you can just enter what you're using, and they'll indicate where it falls as far as quality. Remember, healthy kidneys are maintained with regular exercise. I mean, this is so important. And it's not like I said, not only the kidneys, our heart, our brains, our bodies, we need exercise for many reasons. And we know that exercise has a lot of great benefits for it. Your exercise can actually help lower your blood pressure. And that's something we really need to do to keep our kidneys going well and our heart. It also helps reduce cholesterol and triglycerides, increases insulin sensitivity to control body weight. This is important too because we need insulin sensitivity to actually try to keep our blood sugars level in diabetes. And also exercise helps increase our muscle strength and improves your sleep. How much exercise do I need? Well, that's a good question too. If you're not used to exercising, then you want to start slowly. You want to maybe do 10 to 15 minutes a day of very low impact exercise so to prevent injury. Then you can build up gradually to more strenuous exercises, maybe some aerobic exercises, which we'll show you on the next slide. Increase your exercise by 10 to 15 minute time increments as you get better and you feel better doing it. But before you start any exercise program, always check with your physician first. These are a few samples or a few examples of aerobic exercises: swimming, cycling, walking, rowing, aerobic dancing, maybe water aerobics also. Some people like to use elliptical trainers, stationary exercise machines used to stair climb, walk, or run without causing excessive pressure to the joints. So that's a good example too to try that. Or if you want to just use an upper body ergometer, a piece of equipment that provides cardiovascular workouts just for the upper body. So in summary, I'd like to kind of summarize. I know I said some of these things over and over again, but I think that's the way we learn. So again, I'm just going to summarize what we said. Consuming a healthy, balanced diet, including adequate vitamins and minerals. Choosing healthy, low-fat proteins and dairy products. A colorful variety of fruits and vegetables. Remember I said so we can get those anthocyanins and those phytonutrients in. Whole grains, breads, and cereals for fiber, for nutrients. Keeping hydrated by drinking plenty of non-caffeinated fluids, and controlling your blood pressure, lipids, and glucose levels. Controlling your weight by exercising, eating the right amount of calories, seeing a dietitian if you need to. Maybe that's a good idea if you're not really sure on what to do. Exercising regularly. This is going to help our heart, our brains, our kidneys, our bones, our whole body system by exercising. Don't smoke, and drink too much alcohol, 1 or 2 drinks a day maximum, as we said before, and keep regular medical checkups. So I'm going to say thank you for viewing this today, and I'll be taking some questions now. The first question is, if this person has stage 4 kidney disease, and is this a cause of high blood pressure? Well, actually, what I feel is that the high blood pressure could have been part of the cause for the kidney damage, but I don't think the kidney disease causes the high blood pressure. But again, that might be something you want to talk to your doctor about also, because he or she may be able to answer that, especially if you have a specialist that you see. My program today basically talked about how to prevent kidney disease. If you have kidney damage or kidney failure, make sure you are seeing a nephrologist and you are doing what they recommend. Make sure you see a dietitian for a specialized program diet with the restrictions that you have that are individualized for you, because it varies with each individual. Okay? Any more questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today. And again, you see those 2 healthy kidneys, and they're fighting to keep healthy. So I invite you to do the same thing, and I welcome you to come again and to view us in our next program. Thank you, and have a good day, and Happy New Year.